after Donald Trump promoted this this Fox News special, if you want to understand like where he's going from here on out, Mark Levin is making the case for him.
Troops on the ground. He said no troops on the ground. I don't remember that in any campaign speech either. But why would we need troops on the ground? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and we wouldn't need 300,000 of them. It's this uranium, too. We've got to get the uranium. If it cannot be destroyed, if it cannot be altered, we got to get it. For the reason I just said. You can make dirty bombs, and over time you can still make sophisticated missiles. So you need to get to the uranium. That's why I'm reading in the paper, we're talking about the 82nd Airborne, we're talking about these various special forces and the various military services and so forth. He's not talking about sending regular army and infantry in by the hundreds of thousands. The men he's talking about, the units he's talking about, they are specialized. And you know what else? I remember from my days in the Reagan administration. Many of them are trained for a moment like this, to try and secure enriched uranium.
Yeah, they're not. Okay, this is an unbelievably complex, if not outright impossible mission to conduct. Okay, troops flying over contested Iranian airspace to get to Isfahan is already impossible to begin with. But then also on top of that, you're talking about transporting a fuck ton of enriched uranium. Okay, how are you going to take packaged 1,000 pounds of uranium, even if it's like not even a certainty that the enriched uranium is in the Isfahan facility, because you don't even have the intelligence? Bomb it? Okay, so bomb it? 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium? This motherfucker's just talking about dirty bombs. So you're saying you're just gonna explode underground 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium and basically deploy multiple nukes worth of radiation. 19 nukes worth of enriched uranium exploding on Iranian soil. Incredible stuff. That is a very sophisticated operation that is virtually impossible to conduct, even if America had a runway, established bases that were free of Iranian rocket fire. Okay? Like a launching pad. To do that with no air superiority whatsoever, as you are signaling that you're going to do that a week ahead of time, it's unbelievably stupid. It's not going to happen. I just don't even think it's going to happen. I don't even think they can find the uranium. I know. How are they going to find the tunnel systems? Like, let's say, what are they going to do? Dig it out from the rubble? Like, there's no guarantee that this facility already still contains the enriched uranium. This is from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists analysis. Iran likely transferred highly enriched uranium to Isfahan before the June strikes. Satellite imagery shows that Iran could have transferred to Isfahan up to 540 kilograms, possibly all of its highly enriched uranium inventory before the June strikes last year. 10 days of enriched uranium, enrichment to weapons grade, long enough. There's no guarantee that it's there. And on top of that, it's virtually an impossible mission. And on top of that, once again, highly, highly difficult to, like, you need to, it's not just like fucking Navy SEALs that you can send on this operation. It's a trap. They're going to die there. But also, you have to have like specialists along for the journey, because a bunch of fucking Navy SEALs have no idea how to handle enriched uranium. A former CENTCOM commander talks about this. What boots on the ground in Iran could entail, according to a former CENTCOM commander. Yeah, once you're dropped there, you're on a timeline. You're setting yourself up for a fucking ambush. He later brought on Thiessen to paint Iran with the same brush as Al-Qaeda. Oh, Mark Thiessen, in the Mark Levin interview, Trump urged all his followers to watch, makes the case for troops on the ground in Iran. We have to get what Donald Trump correctly calls the nuclear dust.
Of the leadership, including bin Laden's son, escaped from Afghanistan to Iran, were given sanctuary by the Iranian regime, and they've been using it as a hub for terror around the world. And Al-Qaeda and Iran have teamed up for a series of terrorist attacks against us. People don't realize this, but we remember the bombings of the embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, which should have been our warning that 9/11 was coming. That was planned, and the terrorists were trained by Iran for doing that because Al-Qaeda didn't know how to bring down buildings, so they turned to Iran in order to get the training to do that. So the idea that Iran, which is Shia, and Al-Qaeda, which is Sunni, would cooperate is not beyond measure. In fact, I mean, you know, the Hamas is Sunni also. Iran.
Bro, comparing Al-Qaeda to Hamas is so funny. I'm sorry. Al-Qaeda, Daesh, and all these other like Salafist or Wahhabist groups are antagonistic to Iran. They have, in some ways, been created to fight back against Iranian influence in the fucking region, and they are much more aligned with Western goals by way of Saudi Arabia than with Iranian goals in the region, okay? And no, it's not in Iran, it's Pakistan. That's where they fucking came from. That's precisely where bin Laden was too when we popped his ass. Next to like the Annapolis of Pakistan. That's where he was sheltering. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Works with Sunni terrorists around the world. And if we don't get that enriched uranium and they want to get back at us for what we've done, the easiest way to do it would be to give it to Al-Qaeda and let them use it for a dirty bomb. So we have got to get what Donald Trump correctly calls the nuclear dust before this operation is done.
Abbottabad, right next to the military academy. Yeah. I mean, this is like not even a good argument, I'll be honest. It's just not a very good or a very convincing argument. Like, they're not even doing the don't let the smoking gun turn into a mushroom cloud shit. Clearly, prior admins that were also major war criminals, like specifically I'm thinking of the George W. Bush neocons, were at least more competent than this administration. So this actually does present a unique opportunity for anti-war people like ourselves to make a much more convincing argument that these guys don't know what the fuck's going on, okay? I think it was a lot more difficult back in the day with the competent neocons in charge that were doing full spectrum coverage on why we have to, invade Iraq, why we have to invade Afghanistan. They did a much better job of convincing the population, especially because it was like tied off to the 9/11 anxieties and 9/11 fears that had been successfully universalized for Americans that were living in like bumfuck towns, The competent neocons? No, I mean, they were. What's really funny about this kind of stuff, I'm seeing this, like where they go, oh, dude, let's not do nation building. Let's not do regime change. The idea that the neocons had any sort of real investment in like liberalizing Iraq is idiotic. That was marketing, you fucking idiot. That was marketing. They didn't actually care about bringing democracy to Iraq, you fucking moron. That's why it's so funny when they're like, no, we should just do not woke stuff because like nation building is woke. Yeah, really. Donald Rumsfeld, Mr. Woke. They're so stupid that they, I guess, genuinely believe that the neocons had any investment whatsoever in nation building and democratizing Iraq. No, they didn't, you fucking idiot. That was just marketing. It turns out the reason for that marketing and why that marketing existed was so that they could sell this idea to dumbfuck liberal Americans who ate that bait completely. Now that Trump is not even doing that, where he's doing away with all that shit because they consider it to be woke, and this is the anti-woke warrior ethos, many Americans are not even being convinced on why this is appropriate and why we should do it. It's fantastic.
And by the day, the Israelis are about to go even further. The country's prime minister says there's more to do by expanding their occupation of southern Lebanon. It's a message of strength that concedes a major weakness. Hezbollah has increased its attacks on the Israeli military.
In Lebanon, I have now instructed to further expand the existing security strip in order to finally thwart the threat of invasion.
But this is not the only place where Benjamin Netanyahu is waging war. Israeli and American planes have subjected the capital of Iran to waves of bombing. 701 strikes were recorded over 24 hours, according to one
Amy Goodman's peace sign. Thank you for the 50 gifted.
human rights group. The majority concentrated in and around Tehran. The Red Crescent Society says residential areas were hit overnight, and we see their personnel and search dogs moving through the rubble, searching for survivors and counting the dead. The Iranian Health Ministry says more than 1,900 people have died. On the target list, a well-known public university in Tehran. These images have been verified by Sky, with pictures of the damage posted by an academic the following day. Only last month, this campus was alive with students, she wrote. In response, Iran has threatened to hit US universities located in the Middle East. And Iran has been firing missiles into Israel at a steady pace. The majority intercepted by Israeli defenses, but not all. This impact in southern Israel, filmed from neighboring Jordan. And residents in this community near Jerusalem were fortunate when a long-range missile narrowly missed their homes. 7 suffered light injuries. In Pakistan, talks about peace have begun, with representatives of Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia in attendance. But there's little sign that American and Iranian officials are planning to attend. Instead, the US is bringing in more troops, with the arrival of 2,500 Marines and ships equipped for amphibious assault.
Remember what I told you after day one? Where they blew up a school, blew up a facility where people were children were playing volleyball, which I said was most likely a quote unquote accident that they didn't give a shit enough about. But clearly their targets were primarily Bossage and IRGC shit. When they realized that the Iranian people would not actually rise up, that they would start hitting civilian targets even more aggressively. At this point, they are doing that, right? I mean, Israel very quickly started doing that. They hit the oil refineries near Tehran and engaged in chemical warfare. But when they recognized that the Iranian people were not actually going to fight back against their government in the way that the Israeli government claimed it would happen, even though the American intelligence said that most likely wasn't going to happen if you bombed Iran. Okay. They were going to start punishing every single person that they could, every single member of Iranian civil society, and they're precisely doing that. Yeah. This trajectory is now unmistakable. As Iran maintains its ability to fire back, the U.S.-Israeli target set is widening from military sites to universities, factories, and residential areas. This shift is arguably driven by difficulty of decisively degrading Iran's military capabilities. What prevents Iran from doing the same? Iran will do the same. Iran is doing the same right now. If they have a facility that's hit, they hit back in the same way to Israel as well. And ironically enough, for those of us who have been paying close attention, monitoring the situation, you have noticed probably Israeli reports coming out about how effective Iran is at now consistently penetrating the Israeli security, the Israeli anti-defense systems. They now have a 54% strike rate. It's unbelievable. Yesterday, Iran lobbed 14 missiles at Israel. 7 of them, or I think, more than 7 of them went through. Okay? They hit targets. Danny Citrinowicz, the Atlanticist, who has to eat his words as this is one of those things that guys like Danny were agitating for their entire careers, and now that it's unfolding in spectacular fashion and blowing up in their faces, he has to offer sober analysis and make it seem like he's not on board with this. Says, the escalation is already here. strikes on steel plants and universities on one side, and Iran's response, including damage to desalination facilities in Kuwait on the other, make clear that the current trajectory is unsustainable. Absent an end to the war, and given Israel's apparent intent to deepen its campaign against Iran, further escalation is only a matter of time. Maintaining the current status quo will be increasingly difficult, especially as the Houthis signaled their willingness to expand the conflict in response to intensified activity against Iran. And this is all before even considering the possibility of U.S. ground involvement. Surely Israel can't tank 50+% hit rates for long? Yeah, of course not. No one can. No country can tank it, let alone Israel, who has famously been preserved as a consequence of unlimited American support. Israel has been preserved from receiving backlash. Israel has been spared due to billions of dollars of defenses that they get from the United States of America. Now that Israel is no longer spared and civilians are experiencing the tolls, guess what? When Israelis want to wrap up a military campaign, it's almost always theoretical, only at a bit like so-called non-Zionist Jews who continue to enable. No. This is a major pole shift. I don't think we should be undermining this major pole shift. It's huge. It went from 85% who thought we can just bunker up and withstand these strikes with minor casualties to now 29% to 60%. They are now seeing the consequences for the first time ever. I promise you, they went from 85%, 90% on some polls of Jewish Israelis specifically to now 60% of Jewish Israelis wanting to continue this war. That's a huge difference. And I say Jewish Israelis because it's a demographic designation, a demographic distinction that the fascist Israeli state applies. In Israel, it's Jewish and Arab, right? Even though there are Arab Jews, they are bracketed as Jewish. Arab just means non-Jews, including like Armenians are considered in the Arab category in their demographic polls, even though Armenians are not Arab. This is why we have always said that not only is the Iron Dome support fungible, right? But on top of that, Iron Dome affords regular Israelis unlimited protection from the consequences of their violent militarism in the region, and therefore allows the Israeli government to continue agitating, continue destabilizing the entire fucking neighborhood, continue blowing up places, because they know full and well that there is no enemy, up until now, that can seriously punish and seriously penetrate the Israeli Iron Dome, the Arrow systems, significantly deteriorate their defense capabilities, and actually make the regular Israeli society suffer and experience retaliation. That's changing, okay? That's changing. This is a huge change. This is part of the reason why I make no distinction between offensive and defensive weapons. Now, of course, we didn't stop, offering Israel defense. We greatly increased our defense, but Iran has destroyed their defenses. And here we are.